Yo, what is going on, boys? We are back. Another pay-per-view, historical one here. We got UFC 306, also known as Riyadh Season Noche UFC. A little bit ridiculous on the name there, but I get it. They had to use the Saudi money to pull this one off, but should be a crazy card. We're watching history unfold here. Never been a sporting event in the sphere before, and we got a solid main card. I like it. I would switch it up a little bit if it were up to me, but we'll get into that later in the video. But let's get right into it, boys. Let's not waste any time. Let's break down this main card. First fight, we got Ronaldo Rodriguez versus Ode Osbourne. This is going to take place in the flyweight division. And before we get into any sort of breakdown for this fight, I just want to say it's ridiculous that this is on the main card. You got Raul Rosas Jr. opening the pay-per-view, which I understand, I guess, for the sphere, because you want to start it off with someone who everyone knows, who maybe the casuals would be like, oh, Chiwiwi's guy. But it's ridiculous. This is the Battle of Mid. You've got Ode Osbourne, who's 2-3 in his last 5. And you've got Ronaldo Rodriguez, who's undefeated in his last 5. But a couple of those weren't even in the UFC. They were in some random promotion. And then he has he's coming off one win in the UFC, rear naked choke. He's not terrible. He's a good boxer. I think he's primarily a boxer. And he has grappling skills as well. But just should not be on the main card here. Ode Osbourne, like I said, he's lost a ton of fights recently. I think he's kind of out of the game. He's 32, so he's 7 years older than Ronaldo, which necessarily wouldn't be a bad thing, but Ode Osbourne has just never been anything great in the UFC. He's more bottom of the barrel. I am going to stick with Ronaldo here as for a pick because he's younger. He's got more wins. I think he's a better striker, and he could probably even out the grappling of Ode Osbourne. But I would go Ronaldo by decision because it's flyweights. They're tiny, especially with Ronaldo and Ode. I mean, not much real potential for any knockouts here. You could maybe get a submission going on Ronaldo, but let's hope this is a good opener because I don't have good faith in it. Going into the next fight, we got Daniel Zellhuber versus Esteban Ribovics, and I'm really excited for this fight. I think this was a great fight to make by the UFC. You got two guys who are primarily strikers, and they're going to go in there and scrap it out. Daniel Zellhuber has a big height advantage for the division, also a big reach advantage, and he's a very technical striker. I was impressed with his last performance at UFC Mexico, but same with Esteban. He did great. I think he was an underdog against Terrence McKinney, and he delivered one of the craziest knockouts I had seen that year. Nasty head kick knockout. Here, I think I'm going to stick with Daniel. Reason being the height advantage and the reach advantage, and I think he's just a more composed striker. Esteban's kind of like a guns blazing, more of like a Gaethje fight style or like a Chandler, someone who's just going to go out there and absolutely brawl. And Daniel's more like a Sean O'Malley, Peyton Talbot type of striker who comes in there very composed and looks for the shots. And he's going to find those openings and capitalize on them. I also think these Mexican fighters are going to have an inherent advantage in this fight card, obviously, because it's Mexican Heritage Day or month, whatever the celebration is. So going to be a very Mexico-heavy crowd. And I think they're going to want to go out there and take this opportunity to represent their country. So next up, a fight I'm really looking forward to, the feature fight of the night, Brian Ortega, Diego Lopez. We've been waiting a long time for this one. Was supposed to take place at UFC 303, and then we had that crazy last-minute cancellation with Dan Ige stepping up on 20 minutes notice. And I think there was a big misconception in that fight. A lot of people had said that Diego was fraud checked, which couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, he had to change weight classes, I think, 3 times in the span of a week. First of all, he stepped up on short notice. And then second of all, Brian Ortega missed weight, so then he had to go up in weight. And then Brian Ortega pulled out, so he basically fought an opponent on 2 hours' notice after switching weights 3 times after already stepping up on short notice. So I would like to see that narrative be put to rest because that's bullshit. But getting into this fight, this is closer than people think, in my opinion. Everyone I've seen so far has picked Diego Lopez except for my boy Sean on Running Mouth MMA. He went with Ortega, and I'm going to have to agree with him. I think 3 rounds is a little sketchy and more in favor of Diego Lopez than it is Brian Ortega. But Ortega has a chin, a solid chin, so I'm not really worried about Diego putting him out. And he can strike as well. His boxing has improved a ton over the last couple fights. And I think he's just as dangerous as Diego is on the ground. I mean, let's not forget that Brian Ortega almost put out a prime Volkanovski. I mean, that was the most insane submission escape I've ever seen from Volkanovski. But I mean, any other ranked featherweight, I think, would have gone out there or tapped. And I think Brian has that veteran skill too. I think he's going to be able to hang in there, and he's been in a lot more compromising situations than Diego has. And I've seen Diego get a little bit questionable before with his cardio too. So I think I'm going to have to lean with the veteran here. I'm going to go Brian Ortega. I wouldn't be surprised if Diego wins. It's going to be a close fight. I don't think it's going to be domination by either side. But I'm going to take a shot on the dog here. So give me Brian Ortega. Then we got a great women's fight here. We're going to conclude the trilogy on this one. We got Alexa Grasso and Valentina Shevchenko. First fight, Grasso came in as a heavy underdog. I think she was like a plus 650 or 700. And ended up submitting Valentina. I think it was in round 4. And it was an incredible performance. It was pretty even before she got that submission off. But that shit was so tight. I mean, I remember when they replayed it, Valentina's face was like purple from where Alexa was choking her. So definitely really strong. She's a great boxer. She hits very hard. She dropped Valentina in the second fight. But then on the flip side, I mean, you got Valentina dominating the division for years now. World-class kickboxer, great grappler. But I think we're looking at a case of young versus old. Grasso's in her prime right now. Shevchenko's on the downturn on her career. And I think, honestly, these odds are great for Alexa. I'm going to take Alexa Grasso, if you couldn't tell by that statement. I just think if Valentina would have... She had her chance in the second fight to get it done. And some people will say it was a robbery. I thought it was a very close fight. I honestly think Alexa won that fight. I don't agree with that 10-8 round. That was ridiculous. But I think that Valentina's getting too old, unfortunately. And if you guys remember that stat they put up a while ago, I think it was before the Volkanovski-Ilya fight, which is another example of young versus old. But it was like, if you're defending your title at over 35 years old, they had a combined record of 2 wins and 28 losses. And I think that goes to show that MMA is really a sport of age. I mean, it's very rare that we see champions at the, like, that successfully defend their title all the way until they retire. You have anomalies like Glover Teixeira, of course, who broke through at 42. But yeah, it's just another reason to lean against Valentina. And I think with the skill set already, Alexa is pretty even with her. So give me Alexa Grasso, potentially even by finish, but most likely decision because it's a women's fight. But yeah, let's move on to the main event here. Here we go. Main event of the Sphere. Really excited for this one. Sugar Sean O'Malley, Merab. I'm from Phoenix, so I'm rooting for Sean on this one. And I do think Sean is going to win the fight. There's a multitude of reasons why. And before I get into that, I did want to talk about an interesting narrative shift that I noticed. I kind of noticed when this fight was announced that everyone was like, oh shit, Merab is going to destroy him. Sean's cooked, whatever. But I've noticed, especially now seeing other people's predictions of what they think is going to happen, pretty much everyone I've seen has picked Sean. And I think that's valid, but it's interesting how the narrative shifts. I am going to go Sean because I think that Merab's main weapon is his cardio. You don't see Merab's chinning guys. You don't see him pulling off crazy submissions. And just recently, Merab's been in a lot of trouble with the UFC. He got a massive cut. Not massive, but he got a decent-sized cut over his eye that he posted on Instagram, and then he posted himself removing the stitches. So You got a guy like Sean O'Malley who's a sniper. He's going to see that, go straight for that eye, pick that off immediately. And also, Merab is rumored, heavily rumored, if you guys saw the picture, to have a staph infection, which the antibiotics kill your cardio for a staph infection only a couple weeks out from the fight. So Merab's going in here with some disadvantages. Now, this could be all some massive ploy by Merab to kind of trick the fans and trick Sean into thinking that he's being vulnerable. But I don't think so. I think Merab's just an idiot. I mean, we all know that he's kind of like a caveman. But regardless of even those facts going into the fight, I think Sean versus Aljo showed us a lot. I think it showed that Sean is actually a lot better at grappling than we think he is. I mean, he stuffed multiple takedowns of Aljo, and he waited for that opening and hit him with that counter right. And that was just beautiful. But we've also seen Merab get wobbled plenty of times. We saw him get wobbled against Marlon Moraes. We saw him get wobbled against Cejudo. And although Merab definitely can win this fight, and I'm not going to count him out here, I think it's great odds for O'Malley. It's basically pick 'em odds. If I were you guys, I would actually parlay Alexa Grasso and Sean O'Malley to win, because another main factor that I haven't even mentioned is the UFC wants Sean O'Malley to win. I mean, they would be devastated if he lost, especially putting him in the Sphere. Massive fight. They know he's probably him and Alex Pereira are probably the biggest chances they have at true superstars. So I think Sean's going to catch him. I think we may have a moment where he gets taken down and it looks a little bit sketchy, but I'm honestly going to predict an early finish for O'Malley. I'm going to think round 1 or 2 knockout here. Like I said, we could see Merab ragdoll him for 25 minutes, but I think his jiu-jitsu is very good, and I think his takedown defense is very good, and we've seen that against Aljo. Aljo is very similar to Merab. They kind of both just spam takedowns, but also the striking differential is massive. I mean, O'Malley is miles ahead on the feet against Merab. He's a generational striker. He's one of the best strikers in the UFC, if not the best striker right now. He's very composed, like I was talking about earlier, very clean, picks his shots perfectly, doesn't put himself in too much danger. So, yeah, give me Sugar Sean O'Malley here to win by knockout in rounds 1 through 3. If we get to round 3, and it might be looking in favor of Merab, so maybe live bet Merab past round 3. But yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Sorry for the inactivity lately. I've had some personal stuff going on, but we'll get back to regular posting. And if you made it this far, thank you. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm always in the comments talking with you guys. So really appreciate it. Enjoy the fights this weekend, and have a good one, boys.